And we continue our Newsmaker now with PCMag.com writer Eric Griffith. Eric, thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Well, Eric, not a lot of movies this summer.
Yeah, we could talk about movies, but they don't really exist anymore. All the big tentpole stuff that would have even premiered in the last month. There was supposed to be a Marvel movie called Black Widow, all that kind of thing. They've all been pushed back to probably Christmas time at best, and more likely to be 2021 before we see a lot of those movies. And that's even assuming that the movie theaters are able to open up again and make any money. Because I think even though things are going to open up slowly, the chances of a giant crowd of people trying to rush in on a Friday opening night to see a Marvel movie, those days might be gone. That might be all over for us, at least for a couple of years, I would think.
Eric, when I was in college, I had a script I wrote for a movie called Black Market Pharmaceutical Voodoo and You. Do you think this is the time to spring that script on good old Bill Pullman?
Wow. First off, A+ on the title. Second, yes, I'm sure Bill Pullman is feverishly awaiting some input from people, especially now. I mean,
Black Market Pharmaceutical Voodoo and You. All right, let's get to the articles on PCMag.com. Let's start out with everything that's leaving Netflix in June.
Yeah, every month I have to write this sad story up about all the stuff you're no longer going to be able to stream on Netflix in the coming months. And it's the typical list of things that Netflix doesn't actually own. It has licensed and it has probably had a lot of success with, but eventually these contracts are up, and that's exactly what happened for these things going in June. Like, one of the top ones is all the seasons of Mad Men, 92 episodes of one of the best TV shows of all time. You will no longer be able to see them on Netflix after June 9th. Another show leaving Netflix after a few years of success, the Andy Griffith Show from the 1960s. All of those episodes, there's something like 280 of them, some of them in full color, most of them in black and white. Those are all going to be gone by the end of June. So if you really want to sit and watch a lot of whistling opening theme songs, now is your time. You should sit down and get those binged in on Netflix before the month of June is out.
Good old Opie Cunningham.
That's right. His acting tour de force days.
He is quite the director there, Ron Howard, Eric.
He is. Oh, fantastic director. And I'm sure he would be happy to say he's probably not a great actor. But, hey, he made some people happy in his day. Get it?
Touche. Talking to Eric Griffith from PC Mag. ISPs, Internet Service Providers, Business Choice Awards. Tell us about that article.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of them there. It's the Reader's Choice Award and the Business Choice Award. And what we do is a survey every year on the Internet Service Providers. We ask all of the PC Mag readers out there to rate their Internet Service Providers across the country. If you love it, if you hate it, do you like the speed, do you like the service, do you like the cost, etc. And based on the overall score that they give their ISPs, we kind of pick a winner among the highest rated ones. And for Reader's Choice, for the ISPs that you have at home, it's been pretty clear for years that the top one is usually Verizon Fios. And that's not something that you have access to in Hornell, unfortunately. Verizon Fios is actually no longer expanding their footprint in any of the places they are. I think the nearest one is Auburn, New York. And the issue there is that they don't make a lot of money at it, so they're not really going to expand, which leaves it wide open to companies like Empire Access, the local fiber optic company that does exist in Hornell, to come in, and they can swoop in and do this for people and make people just as happy with cheaper prices because they don't have the big overhead of being a giant company. And then they can also kick Spectrum, right in the tuchus, and it makes everybody happy. So, so if you can't tell, I recommend you guys look into Empire Access.
Eric Griffith, 5G. I want to stop you a second and talk about 5G. I follow a website called childrenshealthdefense.org, and they talk about what they feel are dangers, environmental problems that could be caused by the 5G technological advancements. We've talked about this before. You did not really subscribe to that kind of thinking. Have you heard of this? I don't want to call it national movement, but have you heard of any objections at this point now to 5G?
Oh, yeah. There are plenty of objections by incredibly crazy people out there who are absolutely full of nonsense. I mean, there are people literally in the United Kingdom, not so much in the United States, who have fallen for this line of bull that they have gone about and started torching the towers for 5G carriers in England. They're burning them to the ground because they think that 5G is going to give them, I don't know, radio signals in the head or cancer or whatever. Actually, and the big thing was they really, literally thought they were going to get the coronavirus from 5G. That is like saying you can microwave your food with your own spit. It is not something that is scientifically plausible. It's nonsense. So, no, I mean, will we come out in the end and find out that there were some effects of 5G? Sure, there were effects of 4G in that they made our phones fast enough that everybody started ignoring each other, and we got a lot of good practice in for social distancing. I think that's pretty much about it. I don't necessarily recommend that you hold your phone up to your head or put it near your crotch too much, but, you don't have to. That's why we have Bluetooth headsets and pockets.
Next article. I'm glad you answered that question, too. Interesting answer. How to set up an Amazon Echo. I think most of our listeners know what Amazon is. For those who don't know what an Amazon Echo is, can you fill us in?
I sure can. An Echo is a smart speaker, and Amazon happens to have probably the best known line of them. And they're little cylindrical speakers you can put around your house. There's tiny ones. There's really big ones with great sound. And there's even quite a few of them now that have a screen on them. Those are called the Echo Show line. And what you do is you say what's called a wake word to wake it up. And whenever you say the word, it starts listening to you, and then it follows your commands, or it answers your questions, or it does things to help you control your smart home, all sorts of fascinating things like that. And this is just a quick story on all the little steps you take with your mobile device using the Alexa app for your phone, and it helps you set up an Amazon Echo. And the reason the app is called Alexa is because Alexa is the primary wake word for most of these devices. I happen to have no less than 6 Amazon Echo speakers in my home. I am a full convert to them. And I also, by the way, have a couple of Google Home Minis for talking to the Google Assistant, because I don't want to play any favorites. By the way, I have an iPhone, so I can talk to Siri, too. So I have lots of digital assistants around me, and not all of them are great, but it's a lot easier to get through life with them than it was without them.
Eric, do you live in a smart house?
I would call my house not necessarily smart, but it's no longer dumb. It is. I have several items that do help me, like a couple of smart bulbs here and a couple of smart outlets there. I don't have an overwhelming number of them. I don't have, like, smart blinds. I don't have a bunch of that stuff. But, I have a smart thermostat, and it's great to be able to yell, Alexa, set the thermostat to 68 when I don't want to get out of the chair, because I'm just that lazy.
The best pet trackers and GPS dog collars for 2020. It says a healthy pet is a happy pet. With location and activity training, these wearable trackers and collars can help make sure your dog and cat is both safe and healthy. Find out which one is right for your furry friend.
That's right. Over the last 2 or 3 years, I've reviewed a number of these, and my colleague Angela has started taking over some of the reviews on these, and that's why this got a big update. But the 2 that I picked as our editor's choice top picks are still the top picks in the list. One is called the Fi Smart Collar. It's Fi, like Wi-Fi, and it's just a really nice collar that has a built-in AT&T cell tower-based GPS. So if your dog gets out of your yard, it will start sending signals to your phone and help you try to track them down. The Fi is really great because it has like a battery life that, as long as the pet is within the home, the battery life is phenomenal. It's something like over 2 months or something like that. I forget the exact number. But not having to charge these things is a great, great aspect of them. Not all the rest have that, but the other one that's an editor's choice is from a company called Whistle. It's called the Whistle Go Explore, and this will attach to any collar. The Fi actually has its own collar built in, but the Whistle attaches to any collar, does a lot of the same stuff, has better battery life than the old ones, and, you know, they're not foolproof by any stretch. They're not instantaneous by any stretch. Like, if your dog gets out of the fence, you're not going to know for like 2 or 3 minutes that they're gone unless you were watching them get out. But that said, it's still better than having nothing on your pet at all. If they're an escape artist Houdini, this is the kind of thing that is worth the investment to have.
Talking to Eric Griffith from PCMag.com. Going to take a quick break. Stay with us. The conversation continues.
The Maple City Dodge Sales Department is open. Your favorite guys, Gary, Larry, Aaron, Doug, and John, are back and available by appointment. Simply call Maple City Dodge and tell them you're ready for a great deal. The incentives are huge, and the sales team is highly motivated. The service, collision, and detail departments are also open. They'll pick up, service, and return your vehicle when the work is done. Call Maple City Dodge in Hornell. They're ready to get you back on the road with the real deal every time.
Hornell Partners for Growth would like everyone to know that we are thinking of you and hope everyone stays safe and healthy. We are working with our district businesses to get all necessary information out that is required to ensure a safe and healthy reopening for all employees and community consumers. To stay up to date on openings, community events, Steuben County, City of Hornell, and Hornell School District information, please like and follow us on Facebook at Hornell Partners for Growth. There you'll find a list of businesses open with current hours updated weekly and posts shared from our businesses and local officials. Please stay safe, and remember, we appreciate your continued support to all local businesses.
And on this Memorial Day 2020, checking in with meteorologist Rob Carolyn. Rob, how's the forecast for today?
Not too bad, Brian. Our Memorial Day is going to be a partly sunny one. However, we are going to have to watch out for a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity today. We've got a little disturbance which is moving across the state. It's producing some pretty good rain right now from around the Syracuse area and Baldwinsville on up into the Adirondacks. And we've got a little shower which came off of Lake Erie a little while ago, which is headed into parts of the southern tier this morning. That'll go by. We'll get back into partial sun and then run the risk of another shower or storm this afternoon. It's going to be warm and increasingly more humid the next couple of days. We're going to be up to about 80 to 85 this afternoon. Sunrise earlier this morning was at 5:39. The sun's going to set tonight at 8:35. Now, we could see a brief shower during the evening. Otherwise, we turn partly cloudy tonight. We're moderately humid. Nighttime lows are going to be about 60 to 65. Tomorrow, we've got sunshine with the chance for a shower or a thunderstorm by late tomorrow afternoon. Warm, somewhat humid, highs 80 to 85. Partly cloudy, 60 to 65 tomorrow night. And Brian, for Wednesday, partial sun with the chance for a shower or a thunderstorm in the afternoon. Warm and humid Wednesday, highs 80 to 85.
Talking with Eric Griffith from PCMag.com. Here's a good article. PC gamers prioritize high-end graphics and back support.
That's right. PC gamers, they have a lot going on in their lives. You know, they need to have a really good rig, as they would call it, for their computer setup. But, you know, if you're playing games this much, like these guys tend to do, they need to have a really good ergonomic setup as well. So PC Mag actually did this survey. We went through and asked a bunch of, a few hundred, I think it was 1,001 survey response, and they were all over the place as far as like what they're willing to pay for their gaming PC, but you know the majority of them are willing to go over $500, and they don't want to spend over $1,500, which might sound like a lot for some, but some of these gaming systems are like $3,000 to $4,000, and there's only about 9% of the people who are willing to pay for that. But when it comes to ergonomics, they're smart. They want to make sure that they have a good lumbar support chair, which I think anybody should have if they're sitting at a desk for a long time. I have a great one myself. And, it's an important thing, the ergonomics of this, especially when you're working from home now, like so many of us are under this quarantine that we've been dealing with for the last couple of months. You need to take care of yourself, not just from social distancing, but also from the fact that you're probably set up at home to work in a way that you never were at the office, where at least they might give you at least a desk chair and a desk, and you might be doing your job at home on the couch or sitting on a crappy futon. Well, you need to take care of your back, kids.
I have to admit, I'm a total geek at this, how shall I say, geek stuff. When I last left the video game world, the games were Asteroids, Pac-Man, and Defender. That shows how far back I go. Eric, do you have to write articles on this stuff? Do you keep up on the current games that they play on PCs?
Not as much as I would like. I mean, gaming just is such a giant time suck, and I just don't have the time really to do a lot of the extracurricular stuff that I used to. Like, I used to go to the movies. Remember those? And, it's just, it's so hard to do, hours on end. Plus, the big factor is, I suck at those games, and I hate getting yelled at and sworn at by little 12-year-olds who are just absolutely destroying me on these multiplayer games. Because I don't know if you noticed, I wrote another story about how PC gamers swear the most over other gamers.
Yeah,
on,
tell us
Xbox.
about that.
So this is a fun little bit of research that was conducted by a website called OnlineGambling.com. And, companies, they like to do these kinds of research so they can get their name out there, and I totally fell for it because why not? This is a fun little bit. They didn't actually measure how much swearing happens in a game because to do that would break pretty much every privacy law in the world. They went into the website called Reddit, which is a giant message board, essentially, and they looked at certain Reddit threads on gaming, and they counted up how many curses there were in subreddits, as they're called, about the different kinds of gaming. And they found that the people who were talking about PC gaming, they were dropping the most F-bombs and S-bombs and saying all the worst possible words, especially compared to, it turns out, the Xbox users were the people swearing the least. You would have expected the Nintendo Switch users with their wholesome games to be less cursy. But nope, Nintendo Switch came in third right after the PlayStation 4 users.
Another new article Eric Griffith has out on PCMag.com is the call of, well, it's not the Call of the Wild, it's the 10 most pirated movies, Harrison Ford's Call of the Wild being number 6. Eric, the 10 most pirated movies, first of all, tell us how the whole movie pirating thing works. How do they get these? Does someone send them to them on a little thumb drive? Do they download them online? How's that work?
Yeah, it's all about downloading online. There's a kind of software client with its own technology called BitTorrent, and anybody who gets into software piracy, TV show piracy, movie piracy has to basically learn how to use BitTorrent. And there are many, many websites out there that list torrents. And if you basically, somebody would take, say, a digital copy of a movie or even take a terrible video of a movie in a movie theater and digitally upload that video to the internet as a BitTorrent. Once it gets listed somewhere and other people have it, the more people who are downloading it and are uploading it at the same time, the faster the BitTorrent is. So it's basically it's a little bit of a popularity game. The more popular a movie is, that means more people are getting it, more people are uploading it. It makes it easier for you to get, and you become part of the cloud of people who are then also uploading it when you're downloading it. That's how BitTorrent works. That's what these pirate stories are all about, because these are the movies that are getting torrented, as we call it, the most. So something like Call of the Wild has fallen, off this list and come back on it several times. There are a few movies that tend to just stay on these lists forever. The superhero movies, like the Avengers movies last year, were on this list forever. Captain Marvel was on it forever. The most recent Star Wars film, however, only was on it a few weeks. Birds of Prey, that's still on there. And Birds of Prey, by the way, is the last movie I actually saw in theaters, and might be for quite some time, to bring it all full circle, just about how sad I am that there are no more movies out.
When Eric Griffith is on, we will frequently talk about Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg said yesterday, Thursday, that over the next 5 to 10 years, about half of Facebook workers could be working from home. He said some employees are going to have now the option to work from home permanently. And this was during a employee town hall meeting that was on Facebook. Zuckerberg says that Facebook is going to aggressively open up remote hiring. Wanted to get your reaction to that, and do you think other companies are going to pick up on this too, Eric?
Well, number one, other companies definitely are. Twitter has already announced that the vast majority of its workers will continue to work from home, and that people will only have to go back into the office voluntarily. Now, that's not going to work for everybody. If you're actually somebody who maintains servers in a building, that's not something that you can do necessarily always do remotely. But for the vast majority of people who just sit at a desk and work through a computer screen, there's absolutely no reason to go back to an office. Even within PC Mag, the discussions are kind of ongoing about how many people will go back to our New York office if it opens up anytime soon. I think Zuckerberg is a little behind the times to say, 3 to 5 years. That's ridiculous. I mean, he made the call about not holding a Facebook conference that they usually hold every year until 2021. He was, kind of in the forefront of making it clear that they were not going to push people to get together physically in 2020, but he's not going to make that same claim for his own employees. I mean, that's, I think, a little behind where everybody else might be headed with this, because we are going to have a real reckoning, I think, when things open up a lot more, that a lot of companies are going to realize they didn't need to have all that office space. They didn't need to have all those people coming in and working in big, expensive buildings, especially in the big cities, when people could be at home and doing the job and be 10 times happier and maybe working even harder just to prove it. It's going to be a very interesting change in the economy of office work, I think, over the next half a decade.
Eric, down to the last 2 minutes, wanted to ask you, when you bring up the name Zuckerberg, a name that often goes along with that, or names that go along with that, the Winklevoss twins, the guys that went to battle with Zuckerberg in the courtroom, college buddies of Mark Zuckerberg who tried to claim ownership of Facebook. Apparently, they put a bunch of the money that they won from Zuckerberg into Bitcoin, and they're doing very well off of that. A new book out there called The Bitcoin Billionaires. Any thoughts on that?
I'm really a Bitcoin novice. I don't really know much about it. It's the kind of thing that probably I should have gotten into a long time ago. I mean, I'm a guy who in the 1990s once had a vendor come to the office that I was working at and talk to me about, hey, you want to get on this cool thing that we're launching? And, it has to do with this, that, and the other thing. And I, heard the name, and it was like, eBay, that sounds terrible. Nobody's ever going to use that. And so I'm not exactly a great prognosticator on, those kinds of things. Now, Bitcoin obviously can make people billionaires. They do it all the time. I heard it's also very easy to lose billions just by forgetting a code. So, I don't think that Bitcoin is for everybody, because if you don't have all your stuff written down and where you can reach it, then you could be kissing millions of dollars goodbye. And with Bitcoin, that kind of stuff just goes into the ether. It doesn't really exist. And if nobody can extract it, then nobody is ever going to get it. It is really, truly lost wages and lost wealth.
Eric, want to thank you so much for joining us here on Newsmaker Show.
You bet. I'm always happy to be here.